Are you ready to learn how to actually grow your business with a virtual assistant? If this is your first time on my channel, my name is Lai, and I run a virtual assistant agency named 2XU here in the Philippines. And I post videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home. So make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos. Now, in the past couple of videos that I have been doing, I've been focusing a lot on how to know if the kind of assistant that you need, how to hire an assistant, how to onboard an assistant. And now I actually want to give you a step-by-step walkthrough of how to have your business basically grow with a virtual assistant. Now, if you think that you are ready to just hire a virtual assistant yourself, you can go ahead and go to 2xu.com/scorecard to check yourself on these different things. But basically what's in the scorecard, I'm going to walk you through how you can do that with a virtual assistant. Now, I'm still going to focus on the three main things that I talked about, which is what we call basically the 2XU formula of making sure that you have the right tasks, you have the right systems, and of course you have the right second brain working with you. It's kind of the way basically that we've seen of how someone can scale their business further than themselves is by looking at those three things. So the first thing is on tasks is when you have a virtual assistant, you can focus on the right things. Now, what I mean by this is day to day, when you are a entrepreneur, when you're a solopreneur, you are working on a bajillion things at once, basically. You have too many hats that you're wearing, you're too many things that you're trying to do to get the business off, basically, or to kind of just keep it running at its pace. And with a virtual assistant, one of the biggest things is you can start giving that to someone else. It doesn't have to be just all you. So then eventually you can get to the point where you're just focusing on the right things. So as a really good example for myself, when I started 2XU, I had this YouTube channel, this one that I was starting to grow. I had 2XU at the same time. And at the same time, I was just focusing on growing myself in a lot of different ways to be able to become the person that I am now. And to be able to do that, I had to make sure that I was focused on two main things. It was clients and content. That's still the thing that I am focused on a lot. So what that meant for me is that I was slowly delegating things to my assistant later on. We hired a staff for it, but it started with my assistant. I first delegated to her being able to edit my videos because the time when I hired her, I was just editing my own videos. It was taking me like 8 hours per week to edit my YouTube videos. So I was able to give that to her. It then became like going through and creating the script basically for these YouTube videos. And then it started to become like, hey, we need to create all of these things inside of 2XU, assets, templates, all that good stuff. And she helped me do that. So the small day-to-day stuff and the new stuff I was able to start building with her because she was my virtual assistant. So that's eventually where we want you to be with your assistant, is that you're working on the right things. You're able to focus on the right things in your business, on what would actually grow it, instead of, again, just focusing on the things to just keep it running. Next thing with an assistant when it comes to tasks is you can actually GTD or get things done. So I am a huge proponent of the book Getting Things Done by David Allen. You guys have seen it in a lot of my videos as well, where I talk about the system basically of having a bucket that you clean. I call it a bucket, basically where I push everything, all of my thoughts to the tasks that I need to do by shopping list. I have it all in a bucket. You go ahead and sort it. Is it a to-do? Does it need to be filed? Does it need to be a later file? And basically making sure that you start working on the things that are top of the list. I add in some Eisenhower matrix in there of like knowing what my urgent and important tasks are, not urgent and important, so on and so forth. So for me, I'm able to do that because my assistant frees me up enough that she can be the one to sort up my bucket most of the time. And one of my buckets is my email, is my calendar. So she goes into and make sure that I am only working on the right things because she knows my priorities. So then I can easily just go into my to-do list knowing that it is something that's semi already curated for me to look at, to know what I'm going to be able to focus on next. Again, so I can just get things done. And of course, you can just delegate more when you have a virtual assistant, because the interesting thing that always happens, and I've seen this happen with a lot of people, of like, oh, I don't think I have enough work for a full-time assistant. Oh, I think I just need a project-based assistant. The reality that does happen with this is that you get to the point where you could just kind of want to keep delegating more and more so you can free yourself up for that main thing that you want to focus on. Again, mine is client, content. Those are my two main things. So with an assistant, it gave me the confidence to actually hire a team behind me to help me out on a lot of the things that I wanted to get done in the business. It also allowed me to delegate effectively as well, because then I was learning all of these things with my assistant, where I was creating these delegation systems with her where I'll be sending her like videos or voice recordings of me trying to get something done. She'll add it to my to-do list, or she'll add it to hers, or we have these daily syncs. So I was building basically parts of what it would look like for me to work with a team with my assistant. So it gave me like, just again, that confidence to be able to delegate more and more in my business. Now, on the second stage, basically on the system side of your business, when you have a virtual assistant, you can grow it because you can finally create processes. What I mean by this is one of the things that usually isn't our top of mind when we're building a business is building things like standing operating procedures, building things like just a step-by-step process of how things are. So when you have a virtual assistant, you can actually start creating and streamlining what your process is in your business. So as a really good example, of course, I didn't have really an onboarding process into XU because I was just taking clients as they came in at the very beginning. And with my assistant, I was able to develop that, and we're still developing that further every single time because I have someone to, one, test it, two, to actually run it, and three, to actually also track it where it's going. So honestly, that's one of the bigger things is when you're an entrepreneur, your time, your value is really in growing the business. And when you're kind of stuck in the running part of the business, it's going to be really hard for you to actually grow it. So with an assistant, they can keep things running in the business so you can focus on that growth. And again, that enables you to have a team, to grow further, to grow things beyond you to the point where you want it to be. And speaking of creating processes, the other thing, of course, an assistant can bring is it can create systems inside of your business. So other than just documenting how things are, she can start building basically what that means and what that actually can look like for you in your business until you guys are basically just starting to build your own, gears in a clock basically of how the business works and building out, again, those starting operating procedures, building out how you want things to look like at a certain time, building out a recurring tasks database basically of, monthly we need to check our accounting, weekly we need to check invoices, daily we need to put in expenses or how we want to bill our clients in different days. So it again builds up to a point where things actually start making sense rather than things just being in your head. And honestly, that's one of the bigger benefits as well, is that things can't be in your head anymore because you have someone to give it to. So as you start building those systems, the next thing of course that they can start doing is that you can start building assets with your assistant. So what I mean by this, and I've mentioned already a few, is things like templates, things like workbooks, things like more like documentation and how things are done in your business, and other than just the standard procedures. It could be the contracts that you need to get done. It could be project trackers, task trackers. It could be client trackers or your CRM basically. So then with your assistant, it's going to be easier to build those assets because it's not going to be you. That's going to keep part of it, is it's not going to be you doing a lot of the different things in your business because you have someone you can delegate it to. Now, definitely don't do delegation by abdication. Make sure you're taking care and giving your assistant as much context as they need to keep forward. But just keep in mind that that's, again, one of the ways that you can grow with your assistant is just building assets. Which brings me to the last part, or the last key thing where an assistant can help you when it comes to building and growing your business, is they become your second brain. Now, what I mean by this, and this is kind of honestly one of the witty things that I've done a little bit with 2XU, is that we 2X we multiply you. So for us, like, we help build basically their second brain. It doesn't have to be perfectly, every single thing about their business, but they've duplicated that part of their brain. So for example, for my assistant, she has now duplicated the client care side, basically client relationship side of my brain, where she's the one, emailing clients, sending them reminders, sending them calendar invites, because she knows that part of my brain. She also knows the content side of my brain. So she's able to create like graphic posts, help me brainstorm ideas for future videos, so on and so forth. So it doesn't have to be, again, your whole brain. They're duplicating different parts of your brain. So they get to the point that they can manage outcomes. So what I mean by managing outcomes is usually when you hire an assistant first, you're giving them tasks, and that's okay. You're giving them bits and pieces of how the business works, and then you start giving them projects of like, hey, I want this done. And then you start giving them the responsibility to take care of outcomes. So as a really good example, like I said, this year even, we upgraded our client onboarding system into XU. I gave that as an outcome for my assistant of like, I want our clients to feel that they are well prepared to work with their virtual assistant. So what are the things that we need to do to onboard them in the best way? And we've now again upgraded our onboarding system based on that. I worked with her on it, but it was mostly her in charge of that outcome to get our clients to the point where they're prepared to have a VA. So that's one of the things that the EA or your VA can basically help when it comes to growing your business. The other thing is they can start then being in charge of results, like being not just the outcomes of your business, but the actual results. So a really good test that I ran actually in the last quarter is seeing how many finished projects me and my assistant can work on. So I had her in charge of, instead of the outcomes for the project that I was working on, so the results of it, to how much basically we can get done and have it as an ongoing effect in the business, and what that actually would look like. So that's what I mean by they can be in charge basically of results, not just the outcome, but the results of what it is that you guys are working towards. So it could be that you have your assistant, maybe since you might be thinking a lot in sales, so you might have your virtual assistant focused on lead generation or getting calls booked in, getting follow-up sent out, being able to actually reel clients back in as they need to. And it could be in a lot of different ways depending on who you are and what you do in your business or what your current focus is. You can have your assistant just shift in that way of like, hey, we're focused on this result right now, let's work towards this. And finally, and honestly it's kind of the cherry on the cake, is they can start managing you. Now, in a lot of beautiful and amazing ways, my assistant manages me in a way where I don't feel as scatterbrained and I have too many ideas in my head, and she just basically helps me parse them through. She's basically, as a person, my sounding board when I have like, hey, what do you think if we did this? Like, what do you think if we did that? Or, from your point of view, because I might be too stuck on this, A, B, or C, or D, which option would actually be best. So then I have this person, because I've developed my assistant enough to become that second brain for me, is that we can bounce ideas off of each other. She can suggest things to me just as I can bring things up with her. And again, she manages me in making sure that I'm in appointments. If I missed something, if I was supposed to give her something or give someone else in the team something, like a resource or something like that. And again, she keeps me also just in line and also keeps me towards where my goals are. She checks in if I worked out. She checks in if I ate, because sometimes if I'm too busy in a day, I'll forget to eat. So it's just that kind of amazing part of having an assistant with you who becomes your second brain, is they can start managing not just the business, but mostly managing you, so then you can manage the business. Now, if you guys like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there and comment below what other things are you curious about when it comes to working with a virtual assistant. I would love to know. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home. And make sure to check out those two playlists right here and the latest video right here. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!